Hello everyone, welcome back to your weekly astrological forecast. So this one's going from November 4th to the 10th, election week and possibly the aftermath. We'll see if we know the vote counts by the end of the week. But anyway, Mars is in Leo, so everybody's energized, I would think, with a lot of courage. And then, of course, Tuesday, election day, we have the moon moving into Capricorn. And then Wednesday, the moon bumps up against Pluto. So, ooh. But let me show you all the other aspects going on as well. And sending you big hugs ahead of time. Hold on. Okay, so before I get started with the weekly overview, I want to talk a little bit about several of the outer planets. Well, not outer, including Saturn, but we're going to have some direct stationing of some of the outer planets. So November 15th, we're going to have Saturn stationed direct, so it will no longer be retrograde. So that will probably feel like quite a bit of a little release, or quite a bit of a little, it will feel like a release, I believe, because Pisces that energy can have us, just kind of all over the place, very, very sensitive, and trying to understand what's going on, trying to figure out what to do, trying to hold our center. Meanwhile, we're kind of being bombarded with a lot of energy. So when Saturn goes direct, it's not going to really totally let up, but it takes us, the retrogrades keep us in an internal orientation. When they go direct, it's a little more external. So it might be that when the stationing holds and then goes direct, it's very possible that we might be feeling more intuitive, more sensitive, more compassionate. But as long as we're not allowing ourselves to be pulled all over the place. I mean, like for now, the test is all about skills, empathing skills, ability. And the only way that an empath can survive is to have super strong boundaries. So there has to be things that we just won't engage in, and things that we realize pull us out of our center. So, whatever it is that you need, it's going to be different for all of us, but, depending on circumstances. But for the most part, it's good for developing empathing skills and healthy boundaries so that you can have those skills, right? Oh, because it's always about being centered. Now, the South Node in Libra is supporting that process as well. If we can find our balance, find our center, and hold it as well as possible, and Saturn in Pisces retrograde supports that because it brings us back inside. But then once we have that center, then we can move forward in our independence with the North Node in Aries, of course. So we have this now while we have, until the nodal shift happens in January, then things will, North Node will be back in Pisces, and hopefully it will be all about more inclusion, more diversity, more compassion. But we'll see. So now, us being in our integrity and being on the leading edge of consciousness, we're going to have to do our part in holding that strong center of love for who knows, well, always. Always. That needs to be our frame of reference always. And but when it can't be and you lose it, try not to beat yourself up. As long as you're not hurting someone else, there's no reason to get too hard on yourself, right? Oh, so okay. So that's what's happening with Saturn. And then Neptune will go, oh, wait, you know what I need to talk about first is Pluto. Pluto will go direct November 19th. And then, next little blip, it'll be, well, actually, what am I saying? Pluto's already direct. Pluto will go into Capricorn, go into Aquarius. Dear God, woman, get your mouth straight. Not Jupiter, Pluto will move into the sign of Aquarius, November 19th. I forget exactly what time. We'll have that, when we get there. I'll have that time for you. But I can say that it will be in effect for 20 years. And we're never going back to the Capricorn placement. So that's... I don't know if it's to be grateful for, because I always feel like we go through whatever we need to, but I'll be happy when we're out of that. I think we probably all will. Now, I can't say for sure that when that time comes that it's going to be all love and light and great, because there is a dark side of Aquarius, which can be very bigoted, can be very opinionated, just tactless, and just thinking of, well, here's a way to help you really get it. Just think of Elon Musk. He's brilliant, but there's that dark side in there that's really scary because he's not connected to his heart. And that brings me to Mars in Leo now. Let's talk about that. And I'll talk a little bit more about the planets going direct as we go as well. But Mars, Leo is about open-hearted loving and generosity, or on the darkest side, psychopathology, narcissism, however you want to, name that. Mars moves energy. Mars is something, when Mars changes signs, the flavor of what we will fight for changes. With Leo, I would think it would be all about our creative self-expression, and most of all, our identity, our self-confidence and our courage. And we will not like at all to not be recognized. People won't like being just left out or unseen is, I guess, a better word, unseen, or being made fun of. That's an awful thing to do to a Leo person. So, and we all have Leo somewhere in our charts. Even if you don't have any planets in Leo, you'll have the sun ruling one area of your chart. It naturally rules the fifth, but in our natal charts, they're much more complex. I don't read whole sign astrology because I've never noticed it worked with personal readings. And I've tried. But I use Placidus. There's so many other ones. But anyway, with those, we'll have sometimes a sign will cover one whole house. You'll have the same, like let's say you have Virgo here and Virgo here. You could say your entire sixth house is Virgo ruled or Mercury ruled. Mercury rules Virgo. But for the most part, most people have like two signs that rule one house. So then you'll have two planets that rule that one house. And so it can seem like it gets complicated, but when transits move and cross over that like 0 degrees into the next sign, then you can really feel the difference. Sometimes things lighten up, sometimes things get more serious. It all depends on the planets and what signs, what houses, and all of that. So anyway, Mars, just think of Mars as, just look at the glyph. It's movement. Same thing as like Sag. There's an arrow pointing. There's something going out from the center. Okay? Leo energy is like that. Out from the center. Okay? Now, newly into Leo, there's movement. Because Leo is out from the center as well. It radiates like the sunlight radiating outwards. So we've got a double dose of fire. Okay? Now, when we have that much fire, we usually have, people get motivated. This is good for the vote. People will be out vote. Well, they already are. They're out voting in record numbers, like never before. Now, of course, we can put a little bit of, we can give actually a lot to the fact that we have more 18-year-olds ready to vote or can vote. And so, as the population grows, we'll always have more votes. Now, with back to Mars and the meaning of the planet, it rules the military. It activates things. Mars will fight for something. It has to do sometimes with just what motivates us and gets us going, where we feel really enthusiastic with, but then other times what we will compete with in order to win, because most of all, Mars wants to achieve something. It's all about our energy, and it's very, very much geared towards independence. And we don't mind having conflict, with wherever Mars is in our natal chart. We don't mind fighting for it. We don't mind, like I have Mars in Capricorn, and I don't mind working hard at all. But it's also where our defenses are. So Mars in Leo will have defenses around what we want to express and create. And it's bumping up against, it's opposing directly, like we've been in this Mars opposing Pluto. This is the threat against, when it was in Capricorn at the last degrees, last week, oh my goodness, those couple of weeks leading up, it was terrible. It's this threat against families and women's rights, and especially our reproductive choices. And now that Mars is in Leo, I think a lot more people will, because they've gone through listening to what women have gone through. They've heard what's gone on in the past, and nobody likes the thought of a granddaughter or a daughter or a sister having to give birth to a baby when they're a teenager themselves. And then the rapist has parental rights in some states. Can you imagine? So, and there are so many other stories. I don't need to go over it again because I've done it before, and I think probably you already know. So now with the shift into Leo, there's just so much more courage around what we've been through, which was protection. Protection against the man, protection against the government, protection against control where government has no right to be. This is that Pluto in Capricorn. You know what I mean? Elon Musk does not have the right to tell all the women in America to have as many children as they can. Just because that's your belief, dude, that doesn't mean we want that, and you don't get to impose your belief upon us. So we've got a battle. There's a battle against, I don't know, I could say plutocracy, but that's kind of a meaningless word. I think battle against control, right? Because of the dark side of Capricorn. But now the bright side of Capricorn is all about integrity and sovereignty, and you don't get to, firk around with me kind of an attitude. So this is what's on the table this week, and this is strong, strong energy. Now Mars will stay direct until December 6th. It will go retrograde or begin the retrograde on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo. And then it will remain retrograde until February 23rd, next year, of course. But it's going to retrograde all the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer. So we're going to go back over that same territory that we've already covered, and with a lot more courage and a lot more authority, I would have to say. And then meanwhile, of course, Pluto will have made it into Aquarius, and a lot of people will open up. A lot of people will be very objective, and but then again, there's that extremist side, and there's that mass, like group mob. That is the scary side of Aquarius, is mob consciousness. That's also the scary side of Pisces, So there's that. I just have to name it. Okay. When it comes to Ceres up here in Capricorn, and we now have 10 degrees of separation, a little more than 10, but separation with Pluto, but still you can see Ceres headed towards Pluto. And so the vibe is getting a lot, it's getting stronger, a lot more powerful. But the difference with Ceres is that there's that need to protect. Ceres loves protecting humanity and animals and food and farming and all the transitions that women go through during our lifetimes, with our reproductive systems. So there's protection against the control, the extremist type of control. So I like seeing that. And then you can see now this exact quincunx coming down to Jupiter. And there we have healing information, healing ideas, healing communication, because, Mercury rules Gemini. So it's kind of like mixing Mercury and Jupiter together. We're all talking about it. We're all thinking about it. Mercury rules the vote. Mercury's up here in Sag, newly into Sag. So there's fire, a lot of fire over here, some water over here. Air and fire mix really well together. And then we do have I do like having the Capricorn energy to help us ground. Things are definitely more intense with the sun in Scorpio. With Mercury and Sag, we're going to be more outspoken. Now, newly into Sag, though, right? Because didn't this just happen Sunday or Saturday or something? As of today, reading this, it's still in the late degrees of Scorpio, and people are, I notice there's more opinions out there, there's more communication going out there, but sometimes, we have to be careful with our words, especially our written words, because you can't hear the tone underneath. It's so easy to be misunderstood. So we have to be a little more careful with each other, and I'm saying that especially for myself. I have to be careful when I make a comment to respond. I'm responding to somebody's question, but, you have to be careful. I have to be careful. Sometimes I want to just give the answer and go because I've got, I don't know, sometimes hundreds of other comments. And, so anyway, I don't need to talk about that more, but I love this stellium up here in Sag, because this gets us talking. It gets us talking about what we believe in. Mercury gets us talking, but Sag gets us thinking Mercury, thinking and expressing. Mars is expressive, both fire signs, right? And then we have this stellium over here in Aries. There's an awful lot of fire going on. So we're thinking about what we believe in. We're thinking about politics. Those of us who do politics, not everybody does. We're talking about what we've learned based on, Jupiter in Gemini over here. And even though it's not exact, you can see Jupiter at 20 degrees Gemini and Venus at 21 degrees and the moon coming in there today. This is a direct opposition, okay, even though the line's not there yet. But the deal is, well, actually, yeah, that line should be there. It really should, but it's here. If I go to let's just go to the standard. Okay, see the double line there? Pointing to Jupiter. Jupiter's holding space for this faster moving planets here. Jupiter in Gemini is about gathering facts or gathering information, and then the moon and especially connected with Venus, it's all about women. This is all about the feminine vote. This is all about, Venus is all about bringing in harmony and making comparison values. Like what matters most to us? In Sag, it's about freedom. It's about exploring the things that we believe in that brings meaning into our lives. And the worst thing for Sag is to not have that freedom. Right? That's the thing. I mean, here, hold on. Let me look at, is this the one? Mm-hmm. No, it's actually our Constitution chart. Yeah. Here's our USA Constitution chart. Right there. September 17th, 1787, 4 p.m. This is about the time that I think there were 6 of the Founding Fathers that signed the Constitution. Whew. There's an excellent show on Apple TV called Franklin. And so, yeah, you guys have probably already seen the John Adams series, but this one is from the other side. This is Benjamin Franklin's experience with all his years in France and doing everything he could to try to bring peace together and hold both spaces or both sides of the equation between France and Britain, Great Britain. And anyway, the moon is in Sag, okay, right there. The mood, the people, the big picture where we can attach to something that we believe in because it's in Sag, and look at the nodal polarity here between Cancer, the homeland, Mars in Cancer, and the North Node in Capricorn. Like, what do we have with, Franklin was all about, they didn't use those words because they didn't have that language in those days, but really a global economy, because he was all about trying to bring in trade. All of these founding fathers had their shortcomings, so I'm not saying anything good or bad about any of them other than this is the way it was, right? And look at this over here with Mercury, Venus, and the Sun all in Virgo, gathering the facts, trying to get something together, create a relationship that was useful for all parties. And then over here, Pluto was in Aquarius. So we're going to have Pluto in Aquarius at some point, I'm thinking it's probably about 2033, somewhere in there. I could be wrong, and I'll know later because it's an elliptical orbit, so I can't say exactly, but Saturn and Pluto close enough together, not terribly tight of an orb, but it's still there, right? So Saturn trying to bring in structure, and with Aquarius, it's new, it's something inventive, something that could hopefully, with Aquarius being ruled by Uranus, in the old, I go with the modern rulership. The old rulership uses Saturn, but I feel like this is more about the change agent, the change in here that could bring in more structure and freedom for the USA. But boy, do we have holes in our Constitution that we're needing to shore up at this point. And then that was the one thing that they kept driving home in this episodes with Franklin, was the fact that you just have to keep fighting for democracy. It's not something that's ever given for good. We have to keep fighting for it. So, okay, now back to Monday. I feel good about Mars there, the Mars opposition Pluto, but we can see that we still have the grand, that's what I was saying before, the grand fire trine going on, all that fire, with Mercury over to the North Node. Now, Mercury's at 2 degrees, so making its way, this is an approaching trine that's not exact yet, but it is going to connect exactly to the North Node. So this is the vote right here, the vote as to what do we believe in, right? Now, these cycles are with the faster moving planets, they're kind of the same every year, but we don't have an election every year. Now, the trine here, we have Mars moving towards Mercury, so communications are going to heat up. But again, the fight, the action, the movement for the vote, right? So there are all indicators of the numbers of votes really, really being high this time. Now, now this one is a waning trine, these 2 trines here to the North Node. No, I'm sorry. It's an approaching trine to from Mars to the North Node, but a waning trine with Neptune. So Mars trine Neptune is fast-moving energy, and it is, it's possible to get out from under the delusion, or it's possible to just keep swimming in it. The North Node in Aries, definitely the direction we're all going. And here's the battle, the polarity between Aries and Libra. That brings in the, that fight for independence. Okay? So it's all right there. The adjustment is coming in. This was the exact aspect here. The adjustment to see a bigger, brighter future, to expand into something that is less dualistic and much, much more protective. There's an adjustment that needs to be made there, and that is pretty much what we're all fighting for. So, here we are, astrology imitating life, or life imitating astrology, I think that's the way to say it. Because the astrology is there. But yeah. But we have to, we really have to commit to what is it that we want? Do we want an inclusive society? It's like, remember Stephen Colbert saying, you got to be like Saturn and put a ring on it? You got to commit. And that exact trine going on here to the sun is shining a spotlight on that in Scorpio. Scorpio's saying, what are you willing to fight for? What is it that you want to change? What transformation do you want to bring through? Do we want to transform like the phoenix rising out of the ashes and have a brand new experience in life? Or do we want to I don't know. On the dark side of it, do we want to just be like energy vampires and only want good things for ourselves and we don't care about anyone else? Do we want to destroy opportunities for everyone else? Like, do we want to, it's just like cannibalize from within. It can be really awful if you're working in the dark side. But people working on the dark side often don't know. They're often clueless as to how they're being victimized. And therein brings in the sesquisquare from the sun to Neptune. On the dark side of Neptune and Pisces, especially retrograde, people don't realize that they're being duped. People don't realize that they're being seduced. People are just, they think, oh, they have money, so they must be better. Like, what? It doesn't matter if the guy's a billionaire. And then that's on the Elon Musk side. Then it comes to Trump, and do they realize what kind of debt the guy's been in and has been in? Do they realize that his money's been made off of the Russian mob or in cahoots with the Russian mob since the 80s? And before that, his father tied up in the Genovese, Italian mob. It only turned into the Russian mob because they pushed the Genovese family out. So it's like, study history. Research. Scorpio. Research. Dig deep. Check it out. But no, it's all about the star power, I suppose. But okay. So you can also see the aspect of the architect here coming from the South Node of the past in relationship-oriented, but also justice and fairness, equality-oriented Libra. And there is that sextile. Now, this is an approaching sextile, so this is stronger energy that's giving us the opportunity to make our way, in the direction that we want to go. And then the other end of it over here at the North Node, which is really beautiful. This is a great aspect here for today that has the ability to really move forward into the future, claiming your independence, blazing your own trail, doing your best. Hopefully we'll get everyone else will vote the same way and we'll be fine. But, if you go with good old, what's his name, Leon, Trump calls him Leon, and Becca over at House of Lenormand, she calls him Muskrat. But anyway, if you go along with him, he's going to say, oh, it'll probably be really bad for a couple of years, and then things will level out, and da-da-da-da. And meanwhile, economists are saying that if Trump gets in again, they're all voting for Kamala because they know if he gets in again, it's going to be terrible, absolutely terrible, except for, the billionaires, right? So, power to the people. Oh, goodness. So I feel like I've covered that grand fire trine enough with you get the vibe, right? We can see another aspect of the architect here coming from, with the sextile here, we've got the opportunity coming from the change agent Uranus in Taurus, which is all about self-preservation and, security, right? And the opportunity is to align with the light of Neptune, which is source energy, which brings through something we can transcend from, which brings through the opportunity to bring in our spirituality and our visionary abilities and our higher levels of creativity and imprint that unity type of consciousness into our lives. And Neptune also rules the arts. Okay, we've got artistic energy over here, forward movement over here with the nodes, artistic energy here with Uranus and Taurus. And I think every sign can be artistic, but the great artists have a lot of a lot of singers have a high level of Taurus energy, and other types of arts usually have a lot of Libra. So, okay, let's see what else. Let me go back to the tighter orb. There we go. Covered that. Oh, yeah, I knew that there was something else. It's a square right here from Chiron to Ceres. Okay, this is a test. This is a challenge. It seems to be an obstacle, but it's really just a test. Same thing with Saturn. Saturn will always test us. So, the light is shining, truth is coming out. What do you really want? And you can build that spiritual foundation that's really solid there. But this test over here is the test to work through your deepest wounding so that you can access the deeper gifts. And the deeper gifts with, well, let's go with the wounding first. The wounding has to do with not coming first, feeling left out, abandonment issues, which causes people to be impulsive. And rather than just be in your natural self and trust your instincts and know that you have more than every right in the world to exist because you're here. But the test is to not abandon yourself. If you don't abandon yourself, more than 50% of the time, you're not going to experience abandonment in your own life. And when you do, you'll be okay with it because you can hold space for yourself. Now, this is not true when it comes to children, babies and children. They absolutely have the real need to be in a symbiotic relationship with a caretaker. But with this square to Ceres, here's the test for humanity, right? Do we protect women so that there is existence in the future for humanity? Because, Aries is all about existence, literally. It's like, I'm here. And we've got that test. What are we going to vote for? So, yeah, okay. And then the sextile over here from Jupiter to Chiron can be a healing opportunity, a way to heal the mind away from the deeper wounding. Because, no matter what we've gone through, we can always turn things around. This is like the healing promise over here of thinking in a new way, of maybe being a little more objective as you connect the dots, and try, if you can do your best to not take your trauma personally. Like, as in, let's say, let's pretend you're born into a family where there were 5 kids or 10 kids and parents were pulled in 2 different directions, and you were raised mostly by your siblings. And then let's imagine one of the parents died. And the hardship on that family, on especially the surviving parent, you would probably think as an adult, from your adult perspective, that your mother or father or whoever the caretaker was, or maybe it was a foster care system. Now, I don't know if they're always doing the best they can, but when it comes to one parent left in a trauma like that, you can imagine that the one that's left is doing the best they can. But if you're still alive, it's kind of like what they call a good enough parent. But that doesn't mean you feel that way emotionally, because you still feel abandoned, you still feel neglected, you still feel... And I'm speaking to this especially because, when Mars goes back into Cancer, those might be some of the issues. But with Chiron and Aries is definitely the issue around feeling abandonment. But whatever we feel and go through, and wherever we're willing to feel all those feelings, then the healing comes through. But it doesn't do us any good to try to think about it. It's more about just processing it through. And, as long as we're not hurting ourselves or anyone else, we're doing just fine. So there's an opportunity here for a process like that. And you can come out of it healing a part of your psyche, your mind, and the way you think, the way you literally think about yourself and life. And I just have to go back to say, when you're doing that type of process work, just don't, whatever you do, don't judge yourself harshly, and don't try to heal. What you're trying to do is you're trying to heal from taking things personally. Okay? Because again, it was like, your parents just didn't have it to give. It's kind of like you need $100 to get something. Like, say you need $100 to go grocery shopping for the week, if you could even make it on a week for $100. It's just a figure I'm throwing out there. It's not reality. But you ask, let's say you're going to your mom as a teenager for $100, and your mom only has 20, but that is all she has for extra spending money, and she gives it all to you. And then you walk away feeling less than because you didn't get what you wanted, but she really gave you everything she had. It's like that. But that's called maturing and growing up. That's what. Well, Jupiter's all about growing. Saturn's all about maturing. So that's just something that's on the table. Okay, so, but again, for today, let's go ahead and go to Tuesday, because that's going to be there as well. Tuesday, voting day. Notice how the moon is now on the other side, and this I set for 4 a.m. Pacific, thinking, 7 a.m. Eastern. The moon, so this would be for people that, have to vote on voting day and couldn't do mail-in or absentee ballots, or chose not to, and that's okay too. But Venus is still holding strong. She's in the third decan of the sign of Sag, so we are deepening our process of, getting out and exploring what we really believe in, putting ourselves out there. And the moon, the mood of the people, is right there with, it doesn't get any better than that. The moon and Venus together, it just doesn't get any better than that. In Sag, no less. But like I said, we have these same kind of transits every election cycle. Okay, so the sun with the little semi-square here over to the moon, this brings in this morning that friction, and then maybe some people are kind of indecisive about some things on the ballot. Maybe they haven't had the time to do the research with all the extra ballot initiatives or propositions, whatever. There's a little challenge there. We still have actually, the moon squaring Neptune. This is new right here. Here's the challenge around religious dogma, right? And victimization versus women getting out, voting for their truth, because this is the test. And if you don't vote, unless you just can't for some reason, then, on the bright side, the test here is that there's a lot of energy to overcome the victimization. There's a lot of energy in order to that's the thing when it comes to Neptune and Pisces. Well, one way this could be is a lot of energy out there helping people, trying to motivate through the media the power of the vote and getting out there and voting, and then but we're also being lied to with Mercury here with this semi square to Ceres. We're being lied to about whether our vote matters, whether it'll do any good, because whenever they're acting like there's cheating going on, when all that's being done is just that the political process is working, the voting process is working well because they're cleaning up votes, or there's people trying to destroy, ballots. There's been some of that, but the dark side, like Pootie over there, or Putin, or whatever you want to call him, the Poodster. I like the way Lori calls it over at the Way of Positive Change. She calls him the Poodster. But, he just wants to undermine America. These dictators, they want to these oligarchs and dictators, they want to undermine democracy because they think that it makes them stronger. So anyway, they're not going to live forever. But there can be a new one coming in with a younger one coming in right behind him. That's the problem. There's always the fight. So that feels clear there. That's the same. We've handled that one. We've handled this one. The day is about the same as Monday, except for voting day, of course, is the action day. The motivation's been there. The action is, it's like, oh, finally, finally. And then we've got the little semi-sextile, which is this little gradual effort to build something. And that's coming from very courageous Eris, holding space for the feminine equality. And over to Uranus, the change agent. And again, it's like the concrete physical vote with Taurus, with Uranus and Taurus. So, okay, let's go ahead and go to Wednesday. Wednesday, the moon. So here we are, the day after is when they'll be counting. And I said it came out to 11:11 a.m. Is that not a portal or what? But that's when... Oh, now my ears are ringing and chills. Okay, so for sure, there's something powerful here. The moon approaching Ceres, and then before we know it, it'll be right on Pluto. So the moon is giving some energy. So the moon, the power of the people, the power of the feminine, the attaching energy to something, responding to something, nurturing something, and the public mood. The public mood coming through at 14 degrees of Capricorn is, we are not going to frick around and find out anymore. We're going to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves and to protect the women, protect mothers, protect, even animals, food, farming, all of those things that Ceres is all about. And we will fight for that adjustment because we've learned enough about what is right and what is truth, actually. Jupiter is all about truth. And do we really have the truth? And can we trust ourselves enough to find that truth? You just have to work it, right? And the sun's in Scorpio, 14 degrees there, again, in the middle of that frick around and find out phase. And sextiling the moon exactly. Right? And then we've got, now you can clearly see that aspect of the architect with Mercury, the power of the vote, coming from the past where we want justice and fairness and freedom. And like I said before, we've been waiting a long time to be able to vote. And the North Node headed towards independence, but there's probably going to be a battle. Because, Trump is already saying, and what's his name? Bannon, God, the most ugly man on the planet. Well, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up between... No, I would say Steve Bannon is probably the ugliest. I'm going to be really petty right now. I think he's the ugliest, and then little Steve Miller is the creepiest. But maybe Trump tops them all. Okay, I'm going to bring my horns back in now. Anyway, what I was headed towards speaking about is the fact that Steve Bannon's out of prison. He might go back in December. I think he'll have a new trial that starts in December. But meanwhile, they're just saying that if Trump doesn't win, that there's been miscounts, or there's something that's not right, and it's another stop the steal BS plan. Because that's all they have, To them, here's Kamala up here with a woman working super, super hard for the family, for everything that is good about humanity, and in her most powerful way that she can, to bring in empowerment, right? In very concrete ways. And she's fighting for us. That's the simple message there. So, yeah. Now, I know I have this set for 11:11, but the moon actually goes into Capricorn at 7:17 a.m. Pacific. So the earlier, I would just think that, well, shoot, these guys are working all hours. That's the thing is, when it comes to counting the vote, because this would be, the beginning of counting the vote day. But you can bet that they were counting throughout the evening before, or maybe there's a law in certain states that they have to wait until a certain time before they can start counting the votes. I'm not sure. But anyway, we can be sure that counting is happening today, counting and tabulation, and then we're going to learn about who's expanded and who hasn't. That aspect of the architect is still there, from Mercury to the nodes. So something's building there. And like I said, the other trine from Chiron to Jupiter is still going on. So really, there's nothing, I don't have anything more to say other than things are getting, I don't know if I would, yeah, I mean, we can say that Capricorn can be intense, especially when the sun is in Scorpio. But because Pluto is intense, it's like the slow burn of bringing things to light that strips away the darkness and empowers someone. It will, I mean, eventually it just brings out all the darkness and the dirt and then empowers the people who are working in the light. But it's going to seem like the dark ones seem to have power because we're focusing on it. But I'm here to tell you that spiritual law says the darkness was always there. It's just that we're now seeing it, and so that we can work with it. So, keep that in mind if you start to get down, worried that it's going to get darker and darker. It's like, no, the light is finally shining on areas that were previously hidden. And that is particularly the process of Pluto. And it can be quite humbling for some people. But it can bring through transformation and rebirth and evolution. It can also bring through obsessions and extremes, and especially to, influencing the masses, which is what we've been witnessing, right? And even though we don't have an exact opposition, Mars is still in range of the opposition there. So there's the fight, coming from the heart and trying to empower the people that deserve to be empowered. Okay, so with the sesquisquadrate coming from Mercury to Chiron, this is a disruption. This is semi-square. Disruption, unexpected detours. Coming from Mercury, this would be, getting all the information about the votes out. And yeah, so this tells me that we are not going to get any, we're going to get information, but we're not going to be able to say for sure yet. It's too soon. It's way too soon. Yeah. The other aspects are the same. Let's go ahead and go to Thursday. Now we have the moon conjunct Pluto, and this comes in at 2:30 p.m. Okay, so this is quite the buildup. There may be something, there very well may be something that comes through, because, Capricorn's about concrete information. The sun working its way through that midway phase, in Scorpio no less, of deeply learning a lesson, We have that. The trine from Venus to Eris. Ooh, this is good for women. This is very good for women. Yeah. Now, Venus with the inconjunct to Uranus. Now, Venus is in the third decan, so something is really blooming out there. And it has to do with women, it has to do with the feminine vote, and it has to do with, excuse me, what we really believe in. And with that trine down to Eris, that is that feminine force. You know, Eris she's a dwarf planet just as strong as Pluto, actually stronger because it takes her 556 to 558 years to make it around the zodiac. All of our lives she's been in Aries, and she will continue to be in Aries until 2048. Yeah, so there's that. But anyway, she's been holding space for the feminine struggle for equality. And we are so ready for a whole new experience. I mean, what the hell? Jeez. How long does this have to go on? Okay, so I think that Thursday afternoon, I don't know that we're going to even, I can't say that they're going to be calling the vote yet. I could be wrong. I'm very open to being wrong. Friday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. The moon is at 8 degrees, so we're still within that first decan of the sign where we are, developing a foundation. And in Aquarius, it can be freedom or it can be bigotry. I can't say what it'll be. It's just a mood, but it is the public. Because the moon moves through one sign in 2.5 days. So 2 to 2.5 days. The trine to Mercury is, I like seeing that. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's just pretty much today is just aspects to the moon. So let me shift to the hours and let's see what else. So 8 degrees in the morning. Now the square coming from Ceres has moved ahead, and now we have that exact square to Chiron. So again, this is that test to holding space for humanity and existence itself. That we all have the right to exist, not just the billionaires. And we have the right to forge ahead in the type of a life that we want to create, not coming from control. That's what, the whole thing with Ceres, trying to hook up with Pluto there, that's about it, protecting humanity. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see how it's just like 1 degree. Okay, now we have the semi-square here coming from Venus. I think there's a lot of news organizations that are having, they don't want to call the vote yet. And that's at about 11 a.m. Pacific. Oops, I went back, I'm sorry. Okay, now the moon is at the peak of 2 semi-sextiles. The other one goes over to Neptune. Yeah, there's still, I don't see a calling of the vote yet there. They're trying to. There's a little bit of manifestation trying to come through there. And that was by 1 p.m. Okay, let's see. Oops. We've got a square to the sun. So the sun maybe revealing something tangible there by 10 p.m. But there's still a test. There's still a challenge. Let's go ahead and go forward to Saturday. Saturday with Venus squaring Neptune, and this comes in at 5:15 a.m. Yeah, again, the challenge. Do we have harmony? Do we have the harmony of a vote call yet when there's a square to Neptune? You know, Neptune's nebulous. And with the sesquisquare here coming from the south node, you know, trying to find that equal balance where we can all say this is, you know, this is the way it is. And then with the moon in Aquarius, no less, they're like trying to pigeonhole something. Maybe there's rebellion. It could just be with the whole time the moon's in Aquarius could just be this tremendous amount of rebellion coming from the dark side, you know, I'm talking about. But this is, you know, this aspect brings in detours and disruptions. And then, of course, the moon with the semi-square to the north node, again, you know, indecision. Dang. The sesquisquare coming from Mercury, trying to count the votes, and to Eris. Again, disruption there. I don't like that. Let's look at Sunday. Sunday, there is a yod that comes through in the morning. I have that for 5:15. Let me go back to the standard aspect. You can see the yod under here. So the sun shining a light, a spotlight no less, over to informative Jupiter that has gone back 1 degree. So we have the adjustment here from the sun to Jupiter, expanding the information, trying to say we've got something firm, but then there's another in conjunct to Chiron. And again, are we moving forward or not? I can't say. Cannot say. Let's go back to the tight orb. Yeah, Mercury to Eris, it's all the same. Now the moon's in Pisces and hitting up against Saturn every hour. It's going to, you know, well, half a degree an hour, 1 degree every 2 hours, of course. So it's getting more and more serious. But nebulous, because Pisces is it can just be all over the place, won't take self-responsibility. We're having to hold firm to our faith that no matter what, we're going to be okay because we're all in this together. But with these two, you know, semi-squares here hitting up the moon in the morning, again, there's still indecision. Now, I thought that by the 11th, like there has to be some type of and this is Sunday. Maybe I'll just go ahead and go one more day just to get some answers here because I'm not seeing them. Or it may be that we have the answers, all the votes are in popular and the electoral college, but we've just got so much interference going on from you know who. I'm going to go ahead one day, even though this brings us into next week. Sunday, oh, whoops. I didn't hit it. I thought I hit it. There we go. There's Monday, 6:15 a.m. Now we have, and thank goodness, because I think the 11th is some kind of a deadline to where things could really be problematic. But now we have a trine coming from the sun to the moon that could have brought something full circle. But boy, it got serious. So you guys, you know, just take good care. Self-care is so important this week. Do everything you can to get enough rest, even if you have to take 2 naps in one day. Do whatever you got to do. Or make sure you get naps in if you're having trouble sleeping at night. Because, yeah, right. I mean, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night to go pee, and then you're going to check the results, and then you're going to be wide awake. Don't check the results. Just go right back to sleep. Keep your eyes open. Just like crawl along the wall with your hands and feet. Don't even let the light get into your eyes. And then crawl back into bed. Go back to sleep. Oh, goodness. Can you see this yod here? I think you can see the yod here. This is at 6:15 in the morning. The sun shining a light, hopefully on some results, because we're definitely going beyond the frick around and find out phase, and something is blooming, right? Shining a light on something blooming. But then there are these adjustments to, okay, I suppose, who won and who didn't. I mean, this is, yeah. And the sextile there with Chiron, the opportunity to heal from so much deep wounding that's been hanging in there for so long. Again, existential right to exist. This is good over here. I mean, I still can't say for sure if it's been called. Let's go by the hour now, because November 11th is a peak day. Now there we have a sextile at 7:15 coming from Ceres over to the moon. There's an opportunity there for something to be complete. Now the moon at 20 degrees is definitely in the stage of blooming. So maybe everything is in by this time, but then still the moon's coming up against Neptune. I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you when, if at any time this week. Come on. There. 11:15 p.m. on the 11th, maybe? Maybe we'll know by Monday midnight. Because the moon in Aries will be bumping up against the North Node. Right? That yod is still in there the whole time. That's important. This is a finger of fate. Right? Do we have healing over our past trauma and transformation or not? Or are we digging our heels in to protect ourselves and get through a crisis? I wish I could say. I'll have to just use cards like I've been using, and we'll keep checking it out that way. But with astrology, I can't say, which is the reason. Because astrology was my first thing. I had dreams of all these symbols in the late 80s, and I didn't know what they were. And then when I finally figured them out, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll study astrology. And yeah, so that was that. And then it wasn't until in the late 90s that I got into the cards, but it was because I couldn't get the answers I wanted out of astrology. And I still can't. I bow to other astrologers that can give us. I totally bow to your wisdom. Oh yeah, and I wanted to give a shout out. Oh my goodness, I should have done this in the beginning, but before I close up, I love this new channel. It's not a new channel. Well, she's been working at it for years and years, but it's called Lawless Astrology. Her name's Dabney. I just love her. So check her out, and if you like her too, subscribe. I really, really enjoy her work. So with that, I'm going to get this uploaded, and I'm sending out lots of love to help us all get through this, no matter what. Okay, bye.